Numerous Rockens rain down, causing widespread destruction as 3 individuals float above the raging fires. Artemis, ranked 26th in the Lord leaderboard and 19th in her guild, Ragnarok, draws her bow and notches 3 ethereal purple arrows. Horde, ranking 33rd in the Lord leaderboard and 22nd in Ragnarok, conjures multiple void blades. From a distance, Artemis and Horde unleash their devastating attacks into the inferno. A gladiator adorned in golden armor leaps into the air, swinging his sword as he declares that this is the end for Rocken. This warrior is Helios, ranked 19th in the Lord leaderboard and 9th in Ragnarok. Helios releases a mountain strike at the ground. Moments later, we witness a warrior gripping Helios' shattered blades in one hand, displaying a wicked grin. He then breaks it into 2 pieces. Helios curses the warrior, referring to him as a monstrous bastard in his final moments. The warrior wielding a massive 2-handed axe is Rocken, known as the King of Violence, occupying the 12th rank in Lord. Rocken holds no guild affiliation and stands as an SSS rank solo player. As Rocken turns his head, he hears a voice behind him, calling him the Pest of the Lord. Skadi, ranked 17th in Lord and 11th in the guild Ragnarok, raises his hand towards Rocken, shouting for him to meet his death. Skadi calls upon the power of frost and conjures a massive wave of ice in front of him. Rocken, now encased in ice, finds himself with only 60% vitality remaining. Despite his icy imprisonment, Rocken wears a grin. In the next moment, Rocken is consumed by rage, unleashing a chilling cry known as the Cork War. The sound rings outward in shockwaves, decimating everything in its path. 3 of the enemies stand stunned, while Rocken, laughing maniacally, charges towards them, vowing to eliminate every last imposter. Suddenly, lightning strikes Rocken's position, enveloping everything in blinding brilliance. As the smoke and electricity disperse, we see Rocken lying on the ground, surrounded by cracks. A window pops up, indicating that he now has only 30% vitality remaining. Struggling to his feet, Rocken narrows his eyes, determined to overcome his tired state. As he rises, 2 warriors hover above him in the sky. One is Zeus, ranked 2nd in Lord and the guild sub-master of Ragnarok. The other is Thor, ranked 4th in Lord and also a guild sub-master of Ragnarok. Taunting the 2 warriors, Rocken calls them Pikachu-like nuisances and urges them to descend. Just as he does, the master of world creation, Odin, makes his appearance. Odin holds the 1st rank in Lord and is the guild master of Ragnarok. Rocken's expression changes upon Odin's arrival, a moment of surprise followed by a furious shout, calling out Odin's name. Odin initiates his attack, summoning various lightning-infused spears and hurtling them towards Rocken. Undeterred, Rocken fends off the onslaught with his double-handed axe. However, a window appears, notifying Rocken that he has been afflicted with an unknown power, reducing his movement and attack speed by 30%. Gritting his teeth in anger, Rocken witnesses Odin conjuring even more lightning spears, suspending them in the sky above him. Kneeling on the ground, Rocken sees the imminent danger materialize and mutters under his breath, labeling Odin as a Rocken piece of shit. This remark causes Odin to narrow his eyes, prompting all the lightning spears to converge on Rocken, piercing his body and eliciting screams of pain. Another window materializes, indicating that Rocken's vitality has fallen below 2%, causing his bodily functions to decline. Mangled and impaled, Rocken finds himself surrounded by warriors who attack him collectively, their expressions devoid of emotion. Approaching Rocken, Odin remarks on his pitiful state, while Odin expresses disappointment over the fall of the once-ranked King of Violence. Odin suggests that Rocken give up and join their side, promising to return what he has lost and even more. Stretching his hand toward the fallen Rocken, Odin presents it as Rocken's last chance, asking him to choose wisely. Upon hearing this, Rocken, with his head lowered, breaks into a smile, and then grins. In the next moment, he raises his head and defiantly flips off Odin, telling him to fuck off. Laughing madly, Rocken declares that he will soon destroy Odin and warns him to watch his back. Hearing Rocken's words, Odin comments on the shamefulness of the situation and raises his hand. In an instant, Odin swings his hand, leaving a wide arc in its wake, cleanly severing Rocken's head from his body. Once again, a window materializes, announcing Rocken's death. As a result, he will suffer a death penalty, causing his level to decrease, and a random piece of equipped armor to drop from his body. Finally, another window appears, announcing the activation of forced logout. In a room, steam billows out of a capsule-like machine, and the lid pops open as Rocken emerges, cursing his defeat. Kneeling down, he pounds the floor in anger and screams wildly. In the room below, a voice comments on Rocken's antics, mentioning that he's at it again. Above, in Rocken's room, he sits and huffs loudly. The World of Lord, a virtual reality game, had appeared mysteriously a few years ago, stunning the world with its unparalleled graphics and lifelike feelings. Rocken was the strongest entity in this vast virtual realm, ranking first on the leaderboard and holding the title of the most powerful SS rank berserker. However, everything changed when Odin, whom Rocken perceives as overpowered, appeared on the scene. Rocken wonders how Odin obtained such ridiculous power, and reflects on how this marks the 8th time he has been defeated by the members of the Ragnarok Guild. Each death resulted in a decrease in his level and the chance of losing his equipment. While other players boasted about their achievements in the game, Rocken poured his soul into it. With a mad glint in his eyes and his fins bristling, he resolved to never give up, even if it meant dying at the hands of the Ragnarok Guild. Determined, he proclaims that he will see who gives up first, whether it be him or the Ragnarok Guild. The next time the Ragnarok Guild attacks Rocken, led by Odin, Rocken firmly believes he will defeat them. He refuses to yield and declares that he will not fail against the losers who make up the Ragnarok Guild. Unfortunately, the outcome remains the same, and Rocken finds himself once again lying on the ground, impaled by various lightning-formed weapons. Cursing the members of the Ragnarok Guild in vain, Rocken is met with another window, announcing that he can no longer retain the nickname King of Violence due to his failure to meet the minimum requirements. Even Rocken is surprised by this revelation and shouts in denial. Odin, too, realizes this development and remarks on Rocken's loss of ranker status. As the Ragnarok Guild members walk away, no longer finding value in killing Rocken, they vanish into thin air. Only Rocken remains on the ground, pierced by multiple weapons, with rain falling upon his Rocken body. Rocken thinks about the loss of everything, his nickname, his once high level, and all his items and equipment. In despair, he lets out a cry of denial, only to be struck by lightning, obliterating everything in his vicinity. Thus, the legend of Rocken, the strongest and most violent entity in the Lord game, ends pathetically, or at least that is what Rocken believed had happened. In the next scene, an alarm clock rings in Rocken's room. Within seconds, he jumps out of bed, smashing the alarm clock. Rocken, still in bed, holds his face in his hands, thinking how he continues to weaken and fails to defeat the ever-strengthening members of the Ragnarok Guild on his own. Cursing himself, Rocken wonders if the rent is due the next day, realizing he will have to sell whatever remains of his gold. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he realizes the connection capsule that used to be in his room is missing. He finds it hard to believe that he requested retrieval the previous day, as he hasn't even opened the door. Surprised, Rocken looks around the room, questioning where he is. Taking a step forward, he notices a rune lying on the ground by his foot. The rune's screen displays the announcement that the virtual reality game, Lord, will soon be released. Rocken is surprised with surprise as the store owner mentions that the current year is 2021. Confused by Rocken's sudden question about the date, the store owner asks what's wrong and if Rocken is okay. Rocken, wide-eyed with astonishment, abruptly dashes out of the shop, screaming. In solitude, Rocken leans against a nearby pole, huffing and panting. Rocken, surprised, recognizes the neighborhood as the one he lived in 3 years ago. He notes that even the convenience store he used to frequent and the part-timer's name he was acquainted with remain the same. Confused, he wonders what is happening. Remembering his death at the hands of the Ragnarok Guild members while playing the mobile game Load, Rocken recalls how he was stripped of his title and died a pathetic death, ultimately succumbing to a surge of blue lightning. Yet, he found himself back in reality upon opening his eyes, seemingly having traveled 3 years into the past. Raising his hand, he thinks how the Lord game hasn't even been released yet. Grinning, Rocken considers the possibility of this being a dream or something more. Suddenly, he realizes that Odin must be responsible for Thai. Laughing hysterically, he startles passersby, exclaiming that Odin must be toying with Rocken's mind using some strange skill. Inhaling deeply, he yells at the top of his lungs, demanding Odin to show himself and face Rocken directly, calling him a coward. The surprised onlookers conclude that Rocken has lost his sanity. In the next scene, we find Rocken sitting before a police officer inside a police station. The officer inquires about basic details and informs Rocken that he will let him go this time, advising him not to engage in such behavior again. Outside the police station, Rocken thinks about whether psychological attacks are normally so intricate. He considers that there would be no benefit for anyone to make him hallucinate in such a manner. Approaching a nearby pole, Rockin grabs it with his hand and forcefully slams his head against it, surprising the nearby police officers. With blood streaming down his face, Rockin believes that everything feels incredibly real. Meanwhile, at the gym, Rockin moves with agility and speed, striking the punching bag with lightning-fast punches and kicks. Observing this, the nearby gym-goers wonder about the martial arts style Rockin is employing, speculating if it could be kickboxing or something unfamiliar. Some mention how they have never witnessed such a distinctive martial arts form characterized by its wide-ranging motions, hinting at a possible Russian influence. Unbothered by their surprise, Rockin realizes that this is his own martial arts style, honed and refined within the load game. Drawing from his past experiences, he anticipates a martial arts revolution upon the game's release. He understands that traditional players, accustomed to keyboard and mouse controls, often struggle with poor body control, leading to frequent deaths even against lower-level monsters. With the advent of full-dive virtual reality, like in the load game, the importance of precise body control becomes paramount. Leaving the heavily damaged punching bag and surprised onlookers behind, Rockin thinks something even more crucial: mastering complete control over his own body. He reflects on how every muscle, from head to fingertips to toes, contributes to his ability to navigate the load game effectively. Tossing the barbell aside, Rockin thinks about his newfound reality, taking deep breaths while sporting a wide grin. He realizes he has traveled 3 years into the past, with just 1 month remaining until the release of the game that meant everything to him. Trembling with anticipation, he frightens a nearby gym goer. In his mind, Rockin believes that the Ragnarok Guild members should await their fate, as he has now been reborn as someone far superior to even Odin. Grinning madly, Rockin vows to dismantle each member of the Ragnarok Guild into minuscule fragments. 1 month later, VC Hero can find himself lying in a capsule within his room. Numerous system messages appear before his eyes, indicating that the system is booting up with a countdown ticking down to 1. Soon, he connects to the load game, opening his eyes to a myriad of vibrant colors suspended in emptiness, the world of load. Another window prompts Rockin to provide his name, designating him as a traveler. With a grin, Rockin divulges his previous name, Rockin. In response, a welcome window greets Rockin, officially ushering him into the Lord game. Subsequently, Rockin materializes in a village where half of the buildings lie in ruins, engulfed in flames and billowing smoke. It seems that a horde of goblins is attacking the human village, while the remaining villagers desperately urge each other to flee. The goblins don armor and wield swords, axes, and bows. As the goblins mercilessly slaughter the villagers who are desperately fleeing from the monstrous horde, a window materializes before Rockin, offering the option to embark on the tutorial. It emphasizes that refusing the tutorial will result in the forfeiture of tutorial rewards. Adorning his newly acquired attire, Rockin thinks that he will, without a doubt, accept the tutorial. In an instant, his attention is drawn to a goblin constructing a huge club, which abruptly takes notice of him. A window emerges, revealing that it is a level 2 goblin. Quickly, the goblin charges towards Rockin, swinging its massive club. In response, Rockin quickly equips his exuding confidence and admiration for the goblin's audacity. In a surprising turn of events, the goblin freezes in place, its eyes widened as it witnesses a tremendous X hurtling toward it. Within seconds, the goblin is cleanly cleaved in two, the ground beneath quaking with the force of the attack. Sporting a grin, Rockin declares that they should revere him, announcing himself the embodiment of violence. He proudly announces his return as the king of brutality. Within the blazing village, the cries of goblins pursuing terrified humans echo through the air, while panicked villagers urgently urge one another to escape. After killing numerous goblins, a window materializes before Rockin, announcing his extraordinary achievement of triumphing over a superior adversary. Another window emerges, revealing that he has obtained the title of Born Fighter. Rockin looks at the windows in astonishment, as the title of normal rank is explained to him. It signifies that Rockin has vanquished an opponent surpassing his own level. This title bestows an increase of 1 in strength. Reading the explanation, Rockin concurs with a sense of certainty. He reflects on how this aligns with the distinctive feature of the Lord mobile game, where performing remarkable feats or achieving near impossible tasks results in enhanced attributes or special effects. He thinks that the traditional method of laboriously hunting monsters to raise one's level is highly inefficient in the Lord mobile game. Rockin murmurs to himself that the tutorial, true to his expectations, does not grant any experience points. The tutorial's clear condition is deceptively simple: survive in this besieged village, slashing and evading the invading goblin pack. It not only denies X because it is a tutorial, but it also poses a significant challenge for a level 1 player to confront even 2 goblins simultaneously. However, as Rocken narrows his eyes, he remembers there is an alternate way to clear the tutorial, recalling a peculiar user named Tolkien who emerged 2 months after the official release of the Lord game. He thinks about the doubts surrounding the tutorial's true objective. It was speculated that the objective of the tutorial was not merely to survive, but to confound it, seeking a flawless clearing method through countless attempts. True to these whispers, Rocken recalls hearing that Tolkien obtained an exceptional reward far surpassing the standard clear record. At present, Rocken is the sole possessor of this perfect clearing method, having gone back in time 3 years. As goblins continue to slaughter the remaining villagers, impaling them with their spears, a young village girl flees, with 2 goblins in pursuit, having just killed her friend. Standing atop a roof, Rocken observes the scene below. In a moment of determination, Rocken leaps down, quickly slashing one of the goblins. The remaining goblin turns its head, watching the fate of its companion, only to find an axe hurtling through the air towards it. Killing both goblins, Rocken embodies the flawless clearing method discovered by Tolkien, to eradicate the entire goblin pack without leaving a single one alive. According to this method, a total of 25 goblins have invaded the village. The first option is to divide and conquer, defeating the goblins one by one. Reflecting on his current approach of hiding and ambushing, Rocken concludes that it is not his style. He has already eliminated 9 goblins thus far, realizing that this method may no longer be effective. Once the goblin count falls below 15, the goblin boss will sense the danger and gather the remaining goblins around itself. Consequently, the goblins will unite, disregarding any attempts made by the player. Thinking about his next move, Rocken approaches the door of a potion shop, recognizing that it is time to employ the second method. Upon entering the shop, he consumes specific potions. A window appears, indicating that he now has only 20% of his health remaining, with diminished bodily functions. This is due to the goblins remaining within the potion shop. Huffing and panting, surveying the lifeless goblins, Rocken wonders if engaging 3 goblins at once was too reckless, acknowledging the nearness of death. Extending his hand toward one of the shelves, he takes a potion bottle and consumes its contents, receiving a message that he has used the lowest grade health potion, thus restoring his bodily functions. Refreshed and revitalized, he remarks that being on the brink of death always yields the greatest results. Suddenly, a cry from outside the potion shop reaches his ears, sounding strangely familiar. Stepping outside, Rocken spots a towering goblin, the goblin boss, surrounded by the smaller goblins. Facing the horde, he challenges them, asking if these repulsive creatures are seeking him. He taunts them, beckoning them to come and face him, using his finger to gesture. Enraged, the goblins charge toward him, emitting thunderous screams. Seizing the moment, Rocken takes 2 potions from his belt, quickly consuming them. These potions are both of the lowest grade reinforcement variety, with one increasing his strength and the other enhancing his dexterity. Grinning, Rocken realizes that he is now overpowered by utilizing the second clearing method. Numerous notifications appear, indicating an increase of 10 in both strength and dexterity. Discarding the empty potion bottles, he sets his sights on the goblin hurtling toward him. In the next instant, he effortlessly deflects the charging goblin with a swing of his axe. In the following moment, the goblin is surprised as Rocken quickly cleaves its head, delivering a fatal blow and ending its life. With a fierce gaze, he addresses the remaining goblins, challenging them to step forward, daringly asking, "Who's next?" The remaining goblins charge recklessly, but he effortlessly slashes through their bodies, quickly killing them. Only those players who frequently utilize the achievement system can experience accelerated growth. Rocken orders his attention to the newly appeared window, which notifies him of his astonishing achievement. It states that he has flawlessly emerged victorious against a significant number of enemies surpassing his own strength. It further bestows upon him the title of Natural Fighter, highlighting Rocken as the first player to obtain this prestigious accolade. Belonging to the Magic category, the Natural Fighter title recognizes Rocken's innate talent, enabling him to vanquish a multitude of foes 3 levels higher with remarkable ease. This talent is akin to a heavenly gift. As the pioneer of this title, Rocken's strength and dexterity receive a remarkable boost of 3 points each, while his critical rate increases by 5% when confronted by 5 or more opponents. Reveling in the effects, Rocken smiles, acknowledging the additional first acquisition bonus. Reflecting on his current status as a level 1 player, he marvels at his impressive stats, 15 in strength and 14 in dexterity. These figures rival those of a level 10 player. However, his focus is abruptly interrupted as the remaining goblins cry out, diverting his attention. Undeterred, Rocken assumes his battle stance, questioning whether the goblins have yet to grasp the futility of challenging him. He slices through the goblins effortlessly. Just as Rocken is caught off guard, he senses the presence of the Goblin King standing beside him, brandishing its blade. Reacting quickly, the goblin boss strikes down with its weapon, triggering the appearance of a window indicating that it is a level 15 armed goblin, classified as an elite. Despite enduring the attack, Rocken mocks the goblin boss, acknowledging its survival, taunting it as foolish and dense. The Goblin King relentlessly attacks Rocken, who deftly evades each strike. However, Rocken can feel the tremendous power behind the Goblin King's assaults. He realizes that the Goblin King is significantly stronger and faster than an ordinary goblin, acknowledging the distinction that bosses possess. Unbothered, Rocken charges at the Goblin King, a grin on his face. As the Goblin King swings its sword, shattering the ground before Rocken, he analyzes the simple attack pattern and effortlessly evades it. Quickly leaping aside, he swings his axe, successfully striking the Goblin King's shoulder. Yet, to Rocken's surprise, the Goblin King remains alive. Seizing this opportunity, the Goblin King grabs Rocken's hand tightly, letting out a furious scream as it slams Rocken's body into the ground in. Windows appear, notifying Rocken of the substantial damage received, 355 points, and revealing that he is left with only 20% of his vitality. Raising its foot, the Goblin King intends to crush Rocken, but he manages to escape the spot just in time, reappearing a few meters away. Rocken curses internally, recognizing that the Goblin King's strength or speed were never the primary issue. It is the defense of the Goblin King that poses the real challenge. With his current stats and weapon, Rocken cannot deliver a fatal blow. He recalls having approximately 5 minutes left on the strengthening potion. Grinning madly, Rocken declares that the Goblin King should prepare itself, only to surprise everyone, including the Goblin King, as he abruptly turns to run away, calling it a strategic retreat. Momentarily stunned, the Goblin King's rage intensifies, and it runs behind him. Rocken, with a tense expression, runs at his best, striving to put distance between himself and the Goblin King. Eventually, Rocken manages to elude the Goblin King's vision, finding refuge within a large house. Catching his breath, he leans against the wall, checking his injuries and wincing in pain. He wonders if he broke a rib, and begrudgingly thinks the game's realism. Retrieving a scroll, Rocken thinks that it is finally time to utilize the last item acquired from the variety store. The window appears, confirming his use of the lowest grade fire-resistant scroll, granting him a 30-point increase in fire resistance for the next 10 minutes. While Rocken thinks about his plan to lure the Goblin King closer, a massive explosion sounds beside him, indicating that the Goblin King has discovered his hiding place. As the Goblin King swings wildly, Rocken evades the attacks, desperately trying to flee. He realizes there is insufficient space to dodge, and with the blade approaching his neck, he resorts to using his own weapon to block the Goblin King's attack. The force of the clash shatters his weapon and causes a significant impact, resulting in 74 points of damage and leaving his vitality below 10%. Sliding down the wall, exhausted, Rocken finds himself sitting on the floor, while the Goblin King, raising its weapon, approaches menacingly, a purple aura surrounding the creature. Firmly gripping his weapon once more, Rocken grits his teeth and lets out a defiant shout, hurling his weapon toward the Goblin King. However, the Goblin King effortlessly evades the flying axe, a smirk across its face. Confronting the Goblin King with a fierce gaze, Rocken remarks that the situation may amuse the creature, but it will be the last time it ever laughs. Quickly turning, the Goblin King's gaze fixates on the axe embedded in one of the house's pillars, shattering it. Seizing the opportunity, Rocken jumps out of a window, taunting the Goblin King as he activates his armor, confidently stating that they will meet again while gesturing an offensive gesture. As Rocken thinks his thoughts, he reflects on strategy number 3, which involves utilizing one's surroundings. Suddenly, the Goblin King charges towards him, but in the next moment, the ceiling collapses upon the creature, preventing it from reaching Rocken. The Goblin King howls in agony as the entire house crumbles, burying it under the debris while Rocken flees. Running away, he can't help but feel frustration at the exploding house. Despite accomplishing his objective, Rocken finds it sad to witness the former king of violence struggle like this. A window appears, notifying Rocken of his victory over the armed goblin, and his vitality is now below 1%. Rocken thinks that relying on strategies discovered by others is a source of shame, and he recalls that it is all due to Odin. Determined, he grits his teeth and vows to repay the favor tenfold, or even 100-fold, in the future. Unexpectedly, another window surprises Rocken, announcing his completion of the tutorial, an unbelievable achievement as he defeated an opponent 10 levels higher than him. Several more windows appear, bestowing upon him the title Descendant of David, recognizing him as the first to earn this prestigious title. Rocken has achieved the remarkable feat of vanquishing hordes of stronger enemies and has obtained the title 17-1. Once again, he is the first player to acquire this title. Subsequently, additional windows materialize, celebrating his impossible accomplishment of flawlessly clearing the tutorial, and rewarding him with the title Nothing's Impossible. Rocken marvels at the perfection of it all, experiencing a profound sense of happiness. Later, he receives the basic clear rewards for the tutorial, obtaining 10 hard barley bread and 50 copper, along with 5 unknown chests, as additional rewards for his outstanding performance. Laughing maniacally, Rocken mutters to himself, mentioning how the rewards are as delightful as expected. He then thinks about exploring the effects of his new titles and summons his status window. An incredible smile stretches across his face as he marvels at the seemingly unreal nature of his accomplishments. Additionally, Rocken observes the item rewards he has acquired. The title Nothing's Impossible proves to be of legendary rank, with a lengthy status window and multiple effects. Firstly, it establishes a friendly relationship between Rocken and the NPCs in the Alliance from the start. Additionally, the proficiency required for Rocken to level up his class skills is reduced by 30%. Below these effects, there are 3 more mysterious effects denoted by question marks. Rocken's face lights up with a broad smile as he thinks of obtaining this title, finding it difficult to believe. He marvels at the overwhelming boost to his reputation and skills, curious about the concealed effects. Rocken thinks how this title alone will greatly advance his plans, possibly even leading to a complete reconstruction of his strategies. He then examines the unique title Descendant of David, which grants a 10% increase to all stats when engaging in battles against higher-level opponents. Similarly, the 17-1 title, also of unique rank, increases his defense by 10% during battles against multiple opponents. Moreover, his defense can increase up to 30% based on the number of foes he faces. Next, Rocken decides to open all the chests he has obtained. Later, he finds himself in a different location, realizing it is the starter town. As he looks at the sky, he stretches out his hand, mentioning the name of the town, Porter City. Observing the bustling activity, Rocken confirms his suspicion that Porter City is already bustling with players, despite only a few hours passing since the game's launch. He thinks about whether some of his acquaintances, including Ragnarok Guild members, have already arrived and thinks about locating them. However, he quickly dismisses the idea of violence, recalling how Odin rose to prominence 2 years after the game's launch by acquiring the title King of Creation. Rocken finds Odin's situation peculiar. It is astonishing to witness that even the top rankers alter their nicknames and appearances. He considers them cringe role players, given their Greek and Norse cosplay. Rocken realizes that finding these individuals is currently impossible, as he is unaware of their identities. He thinks about what immense rewards were promised to elicit such excessive loyalty towards Odin, questioning whether they were bribed with substantial amounts of money or if they are connected to influential figures. However, Rocken decides to set aside these thoughts for now, as they won't solve anything. Instead, he focuses on preparing for the day he reunites with them, determined to get stronger at an unparalleled pace. Rocken pauses when he hears a voice behind him, asking if he desires to become stronger. Turning around, he sees a muscular man with a shaved head and a white mustache gesturing to him to approach, offering to teach Rocken how to become as strong as he is. Observing the bustling training grounds, Rocken surmises that the crowd is likely due to it being the first day. He believes that these players will eventually leave, and he expresses his intention to utilize the training grounds. The muscular man perceives Rocken's potential and offers him a reduced price of 20 copper for the usage fee, mentioning that he recognizes the potential of a future prominent figure. A window appears, stating that Rocken's title establishes a friendly relationship with the NPCs in the Alliance and neutrally aligned NPCs. Acknowledging the title's effects, Rocken remembers that the standard entrance fee should be 30 coppers. However, using the training grounds, he mutters how he missed this feeling. He diligently punches the training ground scarecrows, one of the early methods to earn experience in Pocket City. Each hit grants experience points, making it a straightforward process. Initially, many players flocked to the training grounds, but they soon realized its inefficiency. Undertaking errand quests for NPCs yielded more experience, along with monetary rewards and valuable items. Even if players persisted in training at the grounds, they had to pay fees and sustain themselves with food, resulting in continuous expenditures. Rocken overhears nearby players suggesting they should hunt goblins instead, deeming their time wasted. Reflecting on his past life, Rocken admits that he, too, considered it a waste of time and ignored it. However, he now realizes that leveling up isn't the primary purpose of the training grounds. With determination, he puts all his effort into striking the scarecrow, unleashing a powerful blow that snaps off its head, sending it flying into the distance. As he catches his breath, a window appears, indicating that his strength has increased by 1. Smiling at the confirmation of his hard work paying off, Rocken recognizes that spending a designated amount of time until stamina is depleted in striking scarecrows raises stats by 1, independent of leveling stats. He thinks that he is the only one currently aware of this information. Rocken then consumes the hard barley bread received as a tutorial reward, thinking that even if someone else knew, they wouldn't be able to replicate it. Aware of his future experiences, Rocken understands that quests do not always yield a faster increase in stats. Although training in the grounds feels difficult and monotonous at present, he believes the day will come when the efforts invested will bear fruit. With this in mind, he finishes his bread and resumes his training. 10 days later, Rocken is still passionately punching and destroying scarecrows. Onlookers wonder why he exhibits such intense training and question its purpose. Other players label Rocken an attention seeker, suggesting they should focus on completing quests instead. Amidst these remarks, Rocken, who continues to train diligently, wonders why these players behave like ignorant know-it-alls. He understands that as levels increase, simple punches alone won't raise stats, making it advantageous to train in the grounds while not actively leveling up. Kicking the training dummy, he obliterates its surface. As the destroyed dummies lie on the ground, a window appears, declaring an unbelievable achievement. Rocken has maximized his strength, dexterity, stamina, and physical resistance in the training grounds. Consequently, he can no longer raise his stats within the grounds. He acquired the unique title the Hard Worker. Furthermore, several windows appear, announcing another extraordinary achievement. Rocken, having demolished a scarecrow within a minute, is now hailed as the strongest man in the village. Overwhelmed with satisfaction, Rocken sheds tears of joy, realizing that he has finally achieved his goal. The Hard Worker title reduces his experience requirement by 10% for leveling up, while the strongest man in the neighborhood grants a 5% increase in strength. Raising his fists and sporting a wide smile, Rocken proclaims that he has finished his current endeavor and it is time to forge ahead. Just then, a voice calls out to him from behind, asking if he desires to become stronger. Surprisingly, it is the same muscular man who claims to have closely observed Rocken for the past 10 days, though Rocken finds the statement peculiar. The muscular man speaks that someone with courage and tenacity like Rocken can achieve greater heights. Hearing this, Rocken is astonished, wondering if this is a hidden quest as he has never encountered such a situation before. The supervisor guides Rocken through the underground system, while he thinks of the possibility of a secret passage beneath the training grounds. The muscular man warns Rocken to be cautious in the darkness, reminding him not to trip or fall. Recalling the supervisor's earlier mention of a higher plane, Rocken wonders if there is knowledge of a hidden job or skill. A maniacal grin spreads across his face as he thinks about this possibility. Suddenly, the supervisor declares that they have arrived. Rocken clenches his teeth, veins pulsating on his face as he beheads a group of scarecrows behind imposing metal doors. He angrily exclaims that instead of a higher plane, this is merely another training apparatus. The supervisor insists that it is no ordinary device. To Rocken's surprise, he notices a vivid green gemstone embedded in the chests of each advanced training dummy. The supervisor explains that these dummies mimic human movements and react to player attacks. In fact, the encounters with these dummies could be fatal, considering Rocken's level is not yet above 10. Taunting him, the supervisor asks if he wants to try out this advanced training, mentioning that Rocken only has one attempt. This revelation astonishes Rocken. With a huge grin on his face, he thinks that even though it's a challenging task, it might be enjoyable. He confidently charges forward as he approaches the intimidating metal doors, which promptly shut behind him. The training dummies engage him in combat, attacking simultaneously. Rocken dodges their strikes, delivering powerful punches to their chests and kicking them away. However, he is forced to block an incoming attack from one of the dummies, absorbing the full force and staggering backward. Skillfully maintaining his balance, he continues to face the onslaught, realizing that these dummies possess considerable strength. Nonetheless, he decides to find amusement in the encounter. 5 days later, the imposing metal doors swing open, revealing a training dummy barely able to crawl on the ground. In an instant, Rockin's foot smashes it into pieces. He reflects on reaching level 10 and attaining the maximum limit for additional stats. Exiting the metal doors, debris from the destroyed advanced training dummies litters the area. Rockin marvels at obtaining the epic title Unflinching Resolve, the first to achieve such an honor. He thinks that this title grants him resistance against all mentally based debuffs, and a 50% bonus to all his stats when his vitality drops below 5%. The realization of acquiring the epic title leaves Rockin astonished. He thinks about how he endured the struggles in the advanced training room, enduring continuous strikes from the dummies. Grinning, he concludes that now is the time. Rockin delicately lifts the napkin covering the face of a slumbering player lying on a bed. He calls out to the voter, identifying himself as a customer and asking if the master is available for work. The warrior stirs awake and asks Rockin if he even knows where they are. Rockin confidently replies that he is aware they are in the Berserker Guild. Chuckling, Rockin remarks that to be a true man, one must embrace the path of the Berserker. Both men laugh, acknowledging Rockin's knowledge and expertise. The warrior then raises a concern, stating that once someone commits to the Berserker job, they cannot change it. Rockin dismisses the worry, asking them to proceed without hesitation. To avoid any delay, Rockin quickly stamps the required document as a window materializes, notifying Rockin of his successful job change to Berserker. Rockin's smile widens, and the warrior congratulates him on joining their ranks. A few more windows appear, informing Rockin that he will be reset to level 1 but will retain his current stats. Watching this, Rockin's smile grows even bigger as he exclaims triumphantly that he has finally achieved his goal. The warrior informs Rockin that as a gift for changing jobs, he can select any item from those displayed before him. Rockin's eyes gleam with an insane glint as he reaches for the handle of a formidable axe. With a single hand, he swings the axe around himself, impressing the warrior with his display of strength. Rockin then demonstrates complex stances and motions, wielding the one-handed axe with finesse, all while moving gracefully throughout the shop. As he finishes, the surprised warrior thanks Rockin's impressive skills, while Rockin himself reflects on how this is exactly what he desired. Gripping his weapon tightly, he thinks how, in all honesty, he considered choosing a different job in his previous life, knowing various hidden opportunities were available. However, his thoughts turn to Odin and the Ragnarok Guild, realizing that as a berserker, there is no better role to confront them all. He understands that, being in Odin's presence, the Berserker's bonus stats come into play during dire situations. Moreover, the Berserker skill allows for stat multiplication, making it the optimal job for anyone seeking pure power. This realization fuels Rockin's determination as he knows that, in Odin to avenge Odin's treachery, he must be the one to sever his head. With this notion in mind, Rockin's eyes narrow with intensity, and an unnaturally wide smile stretches across his face. Amidst this, a message window appears, catching Rockin off guard. The title of the window reads "Searching for the Traces of Wild Wind." It informs him that remnants of the destructive force known as the Wild Wind, which ravaged the world in the past, have been discovered. The window orders him to locate the remaining traces and fulfill the dying wishes of the wind. Another requirement, which has already been met, is the completion of the advanced training job ground and the initial job change. Although there are several question marks displayed under the requirements, Rockin is unable to see their contents. Thinking this window, Rockin wonders if it signifies a genuine hidden quest. As Rockin enters the Aerok Bank, he is greeted by the front desk staff member who courteously inquires about the service he requires. However, he quickly interrupts her, stating that he would like to apply for a loan. Before she can gather his career and personal details, Rockin confidently declares himself as a berserker and requests the maximum loan amount. The staff member explains that for his first job, the maximum loan is 30 silver, with an interest rate of 3% for 1 month. Subsequently, Rockin purchases all the first job skill books available for berserkers from the shop, eagerly acquiring each one. This catches the attention of the observing warrior, who expresses surprise at Rockin's generous spending habits. Asking about the total price for all the books, Rockin is informed by the warrior that it amounts to 10 silver. Soon, a window appears, indicating that Rockin has acquired mastery in the axe skill and 4 other skills. The axe mastery skill, at level 1, increases his proficiency to the beginner level, augmenting his attack ability by 70%. The dash skill, also at level 1, boosts his dexterity by 110% while active. Similarly, the strike skill, at level 1, heightens both his strength and dexterity by 110% during the subsequent attack, surpassing the usual strength of the following strike. The Enrage Roar skill, at level 1, instills fear in opponents with a mad roar. Lastly, the Berserker skill, at level 1, grants Rockin the ability to self-immolate in a fit of rage, unlocking tremendous strength. Upon watching these newfound skills, Rockin thinks about their significance. Turning to the warrior standing beside him, he asks if he knows anything about the file friend. The warrior, with an indifferent expression, responds that he has no knowledge of it, implying his lack of familiarity. Leaving the shop behind, Rockin finds a spot near a fountain where he thinks of his status windows, specifically the hidden quest he received titled Searching for the Traces of Wild Wind. As he thinks over the names Wild Wind and Wind, he realizes that it may be a quest related to berserkers. However, even the Berserker Guild's master seems unfamiliar with these terms, and in his previous life, Rockin, who ranked first as a berserker, had never come across such references. Muttering under his breath, Rockin wonders if someone else had already undertaken this quest in his past life. Feeling helpless without any clues, he curses himself, causing nearby passersby to cast surprised glances his way. Resolving to set the hidden quest aside for now, as it entices him with its promising rewards, Rockin shifts his focus to opening his character status window, reviewing his stats, and confirming his successful job change. With a determined smile gracing his face, he realizes that now, after changing his job, he must engage in relentless leveling. Shortly after, passersby gaze in astonishment as Rockin, seated by the fountain, receives a window above him. The window announces to everyone that Rockin is willing to pay 15 silver to a knight capable of escorting him to the orc camp. Just as he turns his head in response to a voice behind him, a towering figure clad in shining armor approaches. The imposing man inquires if Rockin is the one seeking help to reach the orc camp, to which Rockin confirms his intent. Narrowing his eyes, Rockin questions the man, seeking assurance that he is not alone and asking about his level. Radiating confidence, the man flashes a smile and reveals himself to be a level 25 heavy knight. Rockin mentions that he doesn't just you alone, so the knight should go somewhere else. Hearing this, the knight is surprised, then takes out a token of an old warrior mentioning that he killed an orc himself. Hearing this, Rockin turns his head around in annoyance, mentioning that he's probably just acting arrogant after killing 1 or 2 patrol orcs near the harsh forest where Rogan wants to go. Rockin mentions that he needs at least 2 people above level 30 to get to the old camp in the midst of the forest. He asks the knight to stop acting arrogant, to just go away. Bakel looks around and sees that Rockin is embarrassing him in front of all the people nearby. Turning around to Rocket, the knight casts the skill Detect on him. The same moment, a window appeared in front of Rockin, informing him that the opponent used a hostile skill against him, mentioning that for 5 minutes self-defense actions will be tolerated. It further mentions that the time period may increase if the opponent persists. And the knight sees the level 1 berserker title appear above Rockin's head as Rockin gets up and asks the knight in a cruel, emotionless cold voice what he's doing right now. The knight, seeing his level 1 status, starts laughing at him, calling him a level 1 and asking if he really was acting all cocky when Rockin is just a note that just barely changed jobs. The knight mentions that Rockin should have just found right off if he wasn't up to scale. But the next second, Rockin's cold, emotionless face appears right in front of him, asking what he's fucking around for, asking if the knight wishes to die. Hearing this, the knight, fully confident, tells him to go ahead, saying that he's just a cocky player, thinking that he can get to the orc camp at only level 1. Hearing this, Rockin lets out a cruel smirk, asking if the knight wants to make a bet. Rockin mentions that they will have a fight with 15 silvers going to the winner as reward. He asks the knight, mentioning if such a bet is alright, saying that there won't be any penalty since it's not player killing. Hearing this, the knight stands even closer to him, asking if Rockin is insane. Rogan grins in reply. Rockin whispers to him if the knight is perhaps scared that he is a level 25 will lose to a level 1. After hearing these words, a huge purplish menacing aura surrounds the knight as he slams his foot into the ground and grabs his weapon, while a window appears mentioning that player Bakel has requested a duel betting 15 silver. Bakel has a dark look on his face with a cruel gleam in his eye, looking towards Rockin. With their faces mere inches away from each other, Bakel taunts Rocken, calling him a newbie bastard. Hearing this, Rocken laughs with a cruel laugh and his face turns cold. Later on, we see a 3-member team walking along the city streets. Just then the 3 members hear the passerbys mentioning that there is a fight. Another person mentions that there's a duel in front of the fountain over there. The female member wearing a being which had mentioned that since there's a jewel in the town, these people really must have known lives, while the other members also appeared curious hearing of the duel. In front of the fountain, we see that the surrounding people have opened up a space for the 2 fighters surrounding them watching the spectacle. The Knight Bakel has a purplish cruel aura surrounding his armor as he announces that he will kill Rocken, calling him an arrogant prick, while he scoffs in reply, wishing good luck to the knight. And just at the end, the knight asks whether the Rocken is not equipping a weapon. Rocken flips the bird to the knight, mentioning that his weapon is right here, asking whether psychologically things that Brokon would need a blade to face someone like him. Hearing these words, Python is even more enraged, calling Rocken an arrogant bastard. A bunch of windows appear informing that the duel has started, further mentioning 3 points vitality reaches below 5% it would be considered or loss in the duel. Bakel steps forward, his foot smashing the ground into pieces as he raises his weapon in front of Robin, asking him to die. Bakel swings his weapon, then Rocken easily dodges the attack, moving to the side. Seeing this, Bakel calls him a rat, mentioning that Rocken is only dodging attacks. All the while, the Knight Bakel is thinking to himself, wondering if a berserker is supposed to be this fast. Bakel calls him an arrogant bastard. The next moment, Rocken punches Bakel in the face, crushing his helmet. All the while, Bakel is surprised, thinking what just happened as his helmet disappears. Rocken calls him a stupid bastard in his head, thinking how he raised his extra steps to the limit and other training grounds. Rocken thinks inwardly that his level renewed only because he changed jobs, but his real stats are above level 50. Seeing Rocken destroy Bakel and his equipment so easily, all the surrounding players have their mouths open in surprise. As his opponent lies defeated, a window appears, announcing that player Bakel has lost and is now losing 15 silver. Simultaneously, another window declares player Rocken as the victor, granting him 15 silver. Standing over his fallen adversary's lifeless body, Rocken clenches his fist and bursts into laughter, announcing that he has earned himself some pocket money. Onlookers exchange astonished glances, amazed at how he single-handedly dismantled his opponent in an instant. Speculations arise, with one person questioning if Rocken, who is merely a level 1, could be a hacker. Grinning triumphantly, Rocken thinks to himself that it's not bad, considering what he accomplished with his current abilities. However, he thinks of the challenge of reaching his goal. Suddenly, a team of 3 players led by Justin approaches Rocken from behind. As he turns his head, he sees 1 male and 2 female members of the team staring at him. They inquire if it's true that Rocken is heading towards the orc camp. Responding amidst his injuries, Rocken confirms their assumption, stating that he is indeed seeking a knight to escort him to the orc camp and offering a reward of 15 silver. The team members admit that they rarely venture into the camp and express their curiosity, asking if Rocken would like to join them. Rocken seizes the opportunity and asks about their levels. The male member reveals his level 35, while the 2 females stand at level 32. Evaluating their gear and considering their balanced party composition of tank, damage dealer, and healer, Rocken nods approvingly, satisfied with their capabilities. Handing them a bag, he explains that instead of forming a party, he simply needs them to guide him to the camp. He offers to give them 10 silver upfront and the remainder upon completing the task. Mentioning that they are on their own during combat, Rocken states that he will watch without engaging. He clarifies that any items dropped along the way belong to the team. In the next scene, Rocken and the team journey through the harsh forest. Rocken leisurely strolls with his hands behind his head, while the team follows closely. Suddenly, the leader halts the group as they come across a 3-story stone tower adorned with bones, spikes, and skulls, a clear indication of orc territory. The leader mentions the presence of orc guards scouting the area. Though Rocken already knew about them, he outwardly asks the leader for their next move. The leader instructs Rocken to give him something. The healer rummages through her bag and takes a piece of steak, which the leader tosses into an open space. 2 towering orcs spot the meat and exchange surprised glances, discussing if it was dropped by the hunting team. Meanwhile, the team strategizes in the bushes as the leader guides them in a specific direction. While the orcs remain distracted by the meat, the team silently sneaks behind their backs. Watching this, Rocken smiles, realizing that the team is more skilled than he anticipated, acknowledging their competence. Moments later, they arrive at a massive orc settlement, encircled by a wooden spike fence. Unfortunately, the only entrance without a back door has a guard stationed there. Rockin laments the situation, but the leader calls upon Elfie, the damage dealer, to perform her task. Elfie begins chanting spells in an unknown language, swinging her staff in front of her. As she completes her chant, she utters the name of her spell, Silence, causing a magic circle to appear above the team. Within moments, the orc guard notices the team leader only a few steps away, charging towards him. The guard attempts to raise the alarm, but the sudden silence renders him voiceless. Seizing the opportunity, the team leader quickly slashes the guard's face, instantly eliminating him. The leader returns to the team, issuing Odins, while mentioning that the objective is accomplished. Thanking Rockin for his contribution, the leader hands over the remainder of the reward money. Rockin expresses his gratitude and bids them farewell. Concerned, the healer asks her teammates if they understand why Rockin chose to proceed alone, despite the dangers lurking inside the camp. The damage dealer suggests leaving him, assuming he's willingly heading toward his death. Dismissing their concerns, the leader assures them that they need not worry. He admits not knowing the exact reasons but believes Rockin didn't request help because he isn't weak. The leader thinks about why Rockin initiated the duel in the first place. According to spectators, it was the Heavy Knight who first used an offensive skill, making him the initial aggressor. In the game, attacking a player first grants temporary immunity during a self-defense period, allowing the defender to earn experience points by defeating the attacker. The damage dealer realizes that Rockin saw it as an opportunity to level up. The leader, though uncertain, says that Rockin must have had a motive for choosing to remain at level 1 until reaching the orc camp. Inside the orc camp, Rockin moves silently forward, his face twisted with a ruthless determination. Observing his intrusion, the surrounding orc guards begin to close in, calling him a mere human who has trespassed their settlement. Halting, Rockin raises his one-handed axe, exhaling sharply. With a resolute shout, he demands to speak to any orc present who understands the concept of warrior's honor. Rockin confidently declares that if there is a true warrior among them, they should step forward and face him right here and now. The orcs are surprised that a human knows about their concept of honor. It's a rare occurrence, and Rockin realizes that in the game, there is a hidden mechanism. By shouting like this in the heart of their camp, known as the Shelter of Warriors, the orcs will only accept a one-on-one duel to defend their honor. A peculiar smile graces Rockin's face as he thinks about the situation. He didn't come here solely to level up. There's a vital condition to becoming strong in the load mobile game. He seeks to accomplish seemingly impossible feats and acquire legendary titles, his true objective. Rockin understands that the formidable orc fighters in the unforgiving forest are a superior race. Winning duels against them would undoubtedly yield substantial rewards. Moreover, this hunting ground permits one-on-one battles without any need for apprehension. With all these thoughts in mind, Rockin asks, with a sense of curiosity, who among them is the strongest. He extends his request, asking them to step forward and reveal their might. The next moment, Rockin is surprised as he sees a huge orc standing before him, wearing a smile as he challenges Rockin to prove himself. The towering orc chief beckons Rockin to face him in combat. Sweat trickles down Rockin's forehead as he realizes his own arrogance. He hadn't anticipated encountering an orc chief in this village. Rockin understands that compared to a player, this orc chief must be at least level 70 with a fully developed second class. The chief's strength is overwhelming, and Rockin thinks that his current stats are no match. He scolds himself for his foolishness, knowing that he is bound to lose at this point. Just then, the orcs behind the chief interject, claiming Rockin as their prey. They suggest that since the chief is too powerful, the remaining orcs should challenge Rockin instead. They request an opportunity to prove their worth. Agreeing with them, the chief concedes that some of them meet the qualifications to fight against him. Singling out another orc named Kalo, the chief orders him to face Rockin. Rockin, catching a glimpse of the window, realizes that Kalo is the 4th-ranked orc warrior. In this moment, Rockin is filled with a glimmer of hope, thinking that he might stand a chance against Kalo. He believes that this should be sufficient. However, Rockin's thoughts are abruptly interrupted as he sees a weaker opponent before him. Unable to believe his luck, he grits his teeth, a determined expression emerging on his face, asking himself to pull himself together. He thinks about how he can defeat the chief with such a defeated mindset. The chief calls out to Rockin, asking him to raise his weapon, as they are about to engage in combat. The chief expresses surprise, questioning what Rockin is doing, as it appears that he is allocating his stat points at this moment. Rockin is utilizing his extra stat points to enhance his strength. After distributing all 45 extra stat points, Rockin exhales, declaring himself ready to commence the battle. With the allocation complete, Rockin's highest stat is Strength, reaching 112, while Dexterity, Stamina, and Tenacity follow closely behind with 70 stat points each. Pointing at the Orc Chief, Rockin Borkley predicts that he will be the one to end the Chief's life today. The Chief, surprised and enraged, comments that Rockin is an amusing human. In the next instant, Kahlo swings his club towards Rockin, acknowledging that Rockin is a significant adversary since he is facing Kahlo himself. The club hurtles towards Rockin, but in the blink of an eye, Rockin parries the attack with his own axe, noting that Kahlo's weapon is superior, and he intends to claim it once Kahlo is defeated. As Rockin is pushed back by the force of the clash, Kahlo realizes that he has underestimated the human. Making a decision, Kahlo activates a skill called Battle Cry, emitting a thunderous roar that generates shockwaves, catching Rockin off guard. Assessing his own body, Rockin notices a slight decrease in his stats due to the effects of the Battle Cry skill. Nonetheless, a smile plays upon his lips as he recognizes the skill's resemblance to a berserker's war cry. As Kahlo charges towards Rockin, swinging his axe and confidently announcing his victory, Rockin assumes a defensive stance and questions if Kahlo truly believes that. Their attacks collide, and Rockin turns around to find Kahlo still standing, intact. Kahlo mocks Rockin as an arrogant human, demanding his death. The fight continues, but Kahlo fails to comprehend how the supposedly weaker human manages to evade all his strikes. Even the surrounding orcs express their confusion, asking Kahlo to land a proper hit, but to no avail. Even the Orc Chief finds it confusing, acknowledging that Kahlo appears to possess superior strength and speed, yet wonders why he hasn't claimed victory yet. Amidst the battle, Rockin, wearing a surprised expression and a mischievous smile on his face, chuckles gleefully and asks Kahlo if he's curious about his inability to land a hit. Rockin confidently says that the Orc warrior's simplistic attack patterns are evident to him, even from the preparation phase, allowing him to predict Kahlo's every move. Enraged by Rockin's remarks, Kahlo rises and swings his axe towards him. However, Kahlo remains unable to strike Rockin, even once. A few moments later, Rockin initiates his skill, Cork Strike Level 1. Quickly leaping above Kahlo, Rockin swings his axe with a visible window, indicating that his strength and dexterity have been boosted by 110% for this decisive attack, courtesy of the Cork Strike Level 1 skill. Calling out the Orc warrior Kahlo, Rockin says that he will be remembered for his honor. Kahlo can only utter the word human before his head is cut open by Rockin's assault. As Kahlo's lifeless body collapses before Rockin's mad grin, the surrounding orcs realize that the human has emerged victorious against Kahlo. They exclaim in awe, acknowledging his incredible strength. Rockin, calling upon his status window, is surprised by his achievement, conquering an orc warrior by himself at level 1. Moreover, he has obtained the title Level 1 Slayer of Orc Warriors, a noteworthy accomplishment. Rockin reflects on his initial goal to attain the title of Level 1 Slayer of Orc Warriors after his first job change. He knows that the higher the level of the monster, the more potent the title's effects will be. With this title and further leveling up, he believes he can overcome the formidable Orc Chief. Just then, another window appears, surprising Rockin. It informs him that the title and stat point distribution have been preserved. A series of additional windows appear, indicating that a warrior's request is in progress, and that title stat points will be awarded in bulk upon quest completion. Rockin is surprised by this revelation, cursing loudly in response. In the midst of the commotion, the Orc Chief steps forward, stating that he intends to prove his worthiness by engaging Rockin in battle. Rockin's surprise deepens, and he narrows his eyes, his veins bulging as he questions the Orc Chief, suspecting his involvement in the situation. In response, the Orc Chief elaborates, recalling how Rockin intruded into their territory, announcing himself as a warrior's owner. Thus, according to the Orc Chief, Rockin is obligated to follow through with the warrior's owner until the end. Inwardly cursing, Rockin realizes that such information was absent from the Orc species conquest method guide. He understands that the monsters are technically NPCs, and it's not unusual for them to assign quests to players. After reaching this conclusion, Rockin understands that if he defeats the chief, he will receive extra rewards. But if he loses, he'll face a death penalty, albeit still obtaining the previous rewards. In that instant, Rockin banishes any thoughts of defeatist mentality and offers a smile to the Orc Chief, confidently declaring his intention to kill him. Rockin recalls his moniker as the King of Violence. Watching Rockin's determination, the Orc Chief thinks of him as an amusing human and accepts his challenge. Rockin's face brightens with a smile as he lets out a mighty cry, his eyes and body cloaked in a black-red aura. It is the activation effect of his level 1 skill, Berserker, immolating him with rage to unleash extraordinary strength. As a result, all his attributes are boosted by 200%, alongside additional supportive skills. As the Berserker skill is activated, Rakan feels an immense surge of strength coursing through his body, accompanied by a vibrant purplish-red aura enveloping him. He thinks that this is the moment he has been striving for, an electrifying feeling of boiling blood and overwhelming power. It reaffirms his unwavering commitment to ascend to the upper echelons. Watching this display of extraordinary might, even the Orc Chief is surprised, wondering about the source of this ferocious force. He questions Rakan, labeling him a deceptive scoundrel, insinuating that he had concealed his true potential until now. However, in the next instant, Rakan forcefully thrusts downward, obliterating the ground upon impact, and lunges towards the Orc Chief, swinging his axe directly at the Orc Chief's head. This quick movement catches the Chief off guard, leaving him surprised. In the blink of an eye, Rakan brings down his weapon, tauntingly questioning if the Orc Chief has a problem. Quickly kicking the Orc Chief in the chest, Rakan executes a spin, skillfully distancing himself from his adversary. Amidst his wild laughter directed at the Orc Chief, Rakan thinks that his relentless resolve sets him apart, unmistakably evident by the unyielding aura that surrounds him. He revels in the thought that he will not be mistaken for any ordinary contenders nearby. Rakan thinks that his level 1 Berserker skill lasts for 180 seconds, crouching down and determining that he will conclude the duel within that time frame. With unwavering determination, he launches himself at the Orc Chief, activating the dash skill. Once again, the Orc Chief is caught off guard by Rakan's rapid charge and raises his own sword to intercept and parry Rakan's weapon. Despite feeling the force behind his swing, the Orc Chief insults Rakan as a bastard, even though he is sent reeling backward. While expertly blocking the Orc Chief's counterattack, Rakan thinks of the formidable nature of his opponent. He recognizes that the Orc Chief possesses incredibly high endurance and durability. However, Rakan believes that he currently surpasses the Orc Chief in terms of speed and continues his relentless assault while evading the Chief's retaliatory strikes. The remaining orcs are all surprised, unable to fathom how their chief is being pushed back by a mere human. Engaged in combat with the Orc Chief, Rakan realizes that this cannot continue indefinitely. Despite appearing to overpower the chief at the moment, Rakan understands that the massive level disparity between them, coupled with the chief's formidable strength and defense, prevents him from inflicting significant damage. He understands that he needs to land a critical strike to turn the tide of the battle. As Rakan deftly dodges and launches attacks at the Orc Chief, he identifies an opportunity and leaps forward, determined to break through. However, his optimism quickly turns into dread as the Orc Chief smirks and throws his sword toward Rakan. With quick reflexes, Rakan raises his battle axe to block the incoming strike, but the impact shatters his weapon. Multiple windows pop up, notifying Rakan that his health has dropped below 30%, and that he has 80 seconds remaining for the Berserker skill. Observing the Orc Chief preparing to strike again, Rakan scolds himself inwardly for making such a foolish error. He understands that the Orc Chief, being a boss monster, wouldn't rely solely on simple attacks. Raising his sword against the advancing Orc Chief, Rakan questions if that is the best the Chief has to offer. He remarks how pretentious it is for a creature like the Chief to pretend to yield to his subordinates while boasting about qualifications. Rakan says that it was all a ploy to gauge his own level. Confused, the Orc Chief asks if Rakan is making excuses while facing defeat, branding him a dirty human. Rakan responds, stating that perhaps the Orc Chief is right, acknowledging that his desire for rapid G-Rakanth made him overly calculative. In the next moment, the purplish aura envelops Rakan once more, his eyes turning red. He realizes that a head-on assault suits him best. Startled once again, the Orc Chief watches as Rakan grabs the remaining portion of his battle axe and charges at him. Despite the Chief's block, Rakan surprises him with his relentless frontal assault. Rakan continuously strikes without attempting to dodge the Orc Chief's attacks. Suddenly, one of the Chief's blows lands squarely on Rakan's head, causing his health to drop below 20%. Mocking him, the Orc Chief questions if Rakan has G-Rakan desperate, noting his recklessness. Another window appears, indicating that there are 80 seconds left for the Berserker skill. Without hesitation, Rakan retorts by swinging his axe at the Orc Chief, forcefully pushing him back. The Chief considers it a pitiful struggle, confident that victory is already within his grasp as he counterattacks. Another window appears, revealing that Rakan's health has fallen below 10%, and he is afflicted with the bleeding status ailment. Kneeling on the ground, trembling and gasping for breath, Rakan realizes that his health has fallen below 5%. The Orc Chief smirks, believing that it is finally over. With a smile, he lifts his sword towards Rocken's head. But then, Rocken activates the effect of his epic title, Unflinching Resolve. The Orc Chief is astonished to witness another surge of strength arising from the fallen human, accompanied by a wave of aura. As he withstands Rocken's unyielding onslaught, the Orc Chief finds it impossible to comprehend how Rocken could become even stronger. A window appears, indicating that Rocken's stats are increased by 50% due to his health dropping below 5%. And there are 30 seconds remaining for the Berserker skill. With newfound intensity coursing through him, Rocken addresses the Orc Chief, determined to bring the battle to an end. Realizing the increasing danger of the duel, the Orc Chief activates a skill called Iron Body, bolstering his defense. The two clash once more, their attacks colliding. Absorbing all of Rocken's relentless strikes with his Iron Body, the Orc Chief believes he simply needs to endure the attacks. Yet, in the next instant, the Orc Chief's sword gives way, crumbling under Rocken's relentless assault. Astonished, the Orc Chief mutters in disbelief that this is impossible. Undeterred, Rocken swings his battered weapon and declares that anything is possible. Activating his skill, Strike, he slashes at the Orc Chief, drawing blood. Moments later, a window appears, announcing Rocken's victory over the Orc Chief called Tarchel.